Okay, I'd like to bring in my guest to talk about this moment and the questioning of this lead detective. I do want to note that he's talking about a case that happened 8 years ago. Lisa, let's start with you. Just the fact that he's having to recall very specific details and events from 8 years ago. They pointed out that he had miswritten a date from back then. He had the year wrong. I mean, first of all, how does it look that he's getting something like that wrong? And is it understandable that maybe he doesn't have all of the facts completely perfect?
Yes, and I'm gonna explain to you why. As a police officer who has collected evidence on numerous crime scenes, that whole entire day, especially with a murder, you're collecting evidence, you're getting information, and there's a whole accumulation process. So it is overwhelmed. You're working with a lot of people. The fact that he did have the evidence under lock and key, potentially his department, as long as it is in a secure area before it's submitted, that would be okay and advisable in that situation, unless it went against protocols. And we don't know if that was true or not. And the date, yes, I've done it many times. I've been write a check, and we're into the new year, and I have forgotten it. So I think it was good that the prosecution came back to rebut that and show that we are human.
Absolutely. I can't tell you how many times I've done that. I'm still doing it in February, writing 2021. Frankly, I'm writing 2020 sometimes. Yeah, very interesting. It does seem like a common theme in this eyewitness testimony was that that Chad Oulson was acting very calm and that Reeves was the aggressor here. Is it sounding and looking more and more like Reeves really overreacted here? Lisa, let's start with you.
It doesn't, well, Reeves, yes, overreacted. And one thing that he did say is, Chad Oulson said, "Get out of my face." So who's the aggressor when somebody is leaning over somebody's shoulder and telling them what to do with their personal private phone? You're in somebody's personal space. So just that alone is Reeves being aggressive. And then when he stood up, the words were never said, what Reeves had tried to recount to the detective who interviewed him, saying, he said something along the lines of beating my ASS. So, you know, was that really true? Did he say the F-bomb? All of that. We found out that that wasn't the case from an eyewitness.
And they, of course, mentioned that Reeves is a highly trained individual, that he spent many years on the police force. Lisa, of course, you have tons of experience in policing. Do you think that Reeves' police training is going to help or hurt him here?
I think from everything that came forward, it's going to hurt him. 14 years on SWAT. The ability to deal with confrontation for 28 years as a police officer, you know, on a regular basis, as I said before, unless he worked for a very sleepy community, he has had confrontations in his life, and he knows how to handle them. You are trained how to handle them, to de-escalate and not escalate. All the shoulda, woulda, coulda, my wife probably would have told me, I should have sat a few rows away, shouldn't have went back there, etc. Police officers tend to have this little chip on their shoulder. If somebody verbally disrespects them, they're going to crank up the heat and make it a little bit more intense than it needs to be. And that's where police training comes in handy, that police need to learn better how to de-escalate.
Right. This is the opposite of de-escalation. Lisa, just tell me more about that. In training, I imagine you really do learn how to de-escalate and not take it to this level?
It is, because you're dealing with strangers. Everybody on the street, every confrontation, you don't know if they're high on something. You don't know what happened prior to when you do a traffic stop. Does that person have a body in the trunk? All of these specialized skills that police officers are trained to do, treat everybody with respect, not knowing what could have just happened in their lives prior to that.
Thank you, Lisa, and thank you, Adam. Thank you so much to both of you and all of our viewers for watching. Stay with us here on Law&Crime. Thanks so much.